This is a Headgum podcast.
Where you want to sit?
Sure, wherever you want me.
Wherever you want to be.
One of the red chairs is fine.
Okay, cool. I'll be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why did you choose that?
Because I thought it would be farther away from the camera.
Okay. Would you like
to
us?
be honest with you.
Would you like us to
I'm just gonna
like
shove
all
this in the corner.
move the camera somewhere else and
No.
just maybe get the top, like from
No,
eyes
no,
up?
I
or
just have a big zit that my daughter reminded me of as I was leaving, and I was like, "Oh, that'll be farther away from
Post.
the camera." Isn't that the
We'll
saddest
fix it in
way
post.
that I made that decision? She's like, "Mommy, what is that? Why do you have that on your face?"
How old's your daughter?
She's 4.
Oh,
Yours
okay.
is
Just turned 8.
just turned 8.
Literally a couple days ago.
Yeah, I remember when she was born.
You do? Were you there?
Yeah,
You
no,
were
not
midwifing?
not her birth, but I think I saw Amber in a play or something.
Oh yeah, right
before,
after.
right
yeah,
after,
it was shortly.
yeah.
That's right. At right near here, whatever that theater is. That's over. Yeah, down the street on 15th, I think.
Yeah, it was.
Do you want anything? Water, coffee, juice? We don't have juice. Oh, soda. Wait, there's some new. I don't know what podcast is doing. But there's. You can always tell when there's a new sponsor for somebody's podcasts. Because there's what's in there? Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Oh,
We got Mike's Hard Lemonade, and then there's some other stuff in there, like one of those silly new soda. You know how there's like there was like
I love soda. Yeah,
there was like the regular sodas.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden like craft sodas started popping up, and now there's like 29 different artisanal sodas from black-owned female company. And anyway, we have one of those.
I'll have any
new-
caffeinated thing if it's easy to grab, like a caffeinated soda, anything.
You want a Coke?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll go grab
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, let's stick to the. Let's dance with the one that brought you here, right? Coca-Cola. We don't need to get all fancy. So nothing wrong with Coke. It's
I'll
still
try
very
the fancy
good.
one. If there's a fancy,
I don't think
anything
there's
with caffeine.
I don't think they have caffeine.
Oh yeah,
it's
I'll
like,
have Coke. I love Coke.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me.
So your daughter's off school too.
She's off school, so.
Totally forgot about this. Yeah.
Well, weren't you reminded yesterday when?
No, forgot it. Not this, but that she was off school this week.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like,
Yeah.
but yesterday was President's Day.
Oh yeah.
I easily, I don't know how you
Yeah.
forget that holiday. It's probably the most important holiday and the most fun, certainly. And who's your favorite president?
That's a good question.
Who did you celebrate yesterday? We've only got 47.
The Kennedys were kind of fun. Yeah.
Well, there's just
And
one.
there's only one.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Yeah.
yeah. How about you? Who's your favorite president?
Polk, I think. And
Wait, he wasn't the one who had gout, right? That was a different one.
they all had
That was-
gout. They just covered it up. They all had gout. I love that. I love that there's a disease that is 99% attributed to wealthy people. It's a rich
You're right,
person's
it's a
disease.
disease of excess. You're right.
It's a disease of excess and slovenliness.
Yeah.
It's not exercising and eating way too much rich fatty foods.
It's a foul pig swine. I know the pig and swine are the same thing, but it's a foul swine's disease.
Is what?
It's a disease of swinery.
Oh, I thought it was. But can't you get gout also from eating too many?
No, I just mean
sweetbreads?
for being a pig.
Oh, for being a pig, right?
Yeah.
Wait, you mean a
But
cop?
slovenly is one of
or-
my favorite words that you just use.
Slovenly?
I always call myself a sloven, which is not really a
That's not a
word,
thing.
but yeah.
No, but it
Whenever
should
I'm
be.
being gangrenous or
Yeah.
just generally disgusting, I'm always refer to myself as a sloven.
I wonder how Eric Sloven feels about that.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, if anybody mispronounced his name. Eric Sloven is a very funny comedian writer, for those of you at home.
Yes, he is.
Um,
Nice to be with you.
well, thank you for coming in. You live in New York, yeah?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in New York. I I live in Queens, in Maspeth. I feel like most people haven't heard of it. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of Queens. That's the one where the airports are.
Yes, no, I mean Maspeth.
Yeah, I know. Didn't think. I have heard of Maspeth, but
Oh, you have?
but
Okay.
wait, is there a Maspeth in Long Island?
Well, okay,
There must
so
be another one.
it's Queens, but a lot of people have been like, no, it's Long Island. But it is technically Queens. But some people have, I think it sounds like it's in Long Island.
A big part of Long Island is Queens.
Yeah, so there was a debate about this recently where my husband was like, it's in freaking Queens. And I was like, I don't know, maybe we live in Long Island and I'm the last to know. But his firehouse is there. And he's like, my firehouse is in Queens. It's in Queens. So I was like, oh, okay. But it does seem like it should be in Long Island. And it's like in the middle of nowhere. It's like not close to any subways. And it's a weird insular neighborhood of like these like multi-generational like cop and firefighter families. And I just feel like I'm I just feel strange there.
Interloper?
Yeah,
It's
like
not
I
your
feel like
place.
it's just like everyone drives and I like take Ubers at strange, speaking of foul hours, and I feel like I don't fit in there, but I'm trying hard to make mom friends. And
How long you been there?
it's been about 2 years, but it's just
So relatively new. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it could take a little time. Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live in Brooklyn in Clinton Hill.
Yeah, that's a nice area.
I live on literally the shittiest street in Clinton Hill, and it's infuriating because you just walk a block or you walk around the corner. It's like, what a beautiful tree line, very postcard kind of, especially in the summer when all the branches meet, create that little canopy that you can walk down, and the browns. I mean, they're all over. And my street is, because it's it runs really long, north south, and it's just adjacent to two bigger streets that haven't been rezoned. They're going to be rezoned. I think that should help a little bit, but it's fucking noisy, nonstop, trash everywhere, and it's also like there's a bit of a wind tunnel that runs through. So on trash day, it's helped that we have bins now. Like every other fucking, the mayor was like, "Hey, look at what I did."
I know, that's like
25 years later than fucking third world nations. Yeah, put it in a bin anyway. But all it takes is one person to not bin it, and one rat. Or one person to go through and try to get the cans in the bottle. It just takes one of those things.
And then there's just trash
trash everywhere because it blows all the down the street, and there's all the little things that are around the trees, to keep the trash out and stuff like that. And it's like a nice little visual thing around the tree. And also so, dogs don't pee or shit in it, I think. But all that shit gets stuck to the side, and it just all congregates.
So it's just,
and there's they're too big. It's an intersection, and I'm 3 houses and 1 small apartment building away from the corner of the street, and there's no left turn onto this major street, and so and other streets converge, and it's just from about 3 o'clock until 7. It's just like, like that's not helping. That's not going to make.
I always think it's so fascinating.
That horn right now is not going to enact a law that changes the no left turn. So your horn doesn't affect the signage here.
My dad used to do that, and I was like, "You're just definitely an asshole. Like you can't do that." Yeah, he would just lean on his horn, and
it doesn't help.
So furious every time he encountered the same pretty predictable traffic. Actually, my parents were like, they were engaged, and she said that right after they got engaged, that they took some sort of long drive. They like got engaged really quickly.
You got to do that before you get engaged.
What's that?
You got to do that before you get engaged.
I guess you do, yeah. Because she said he got in some traffic, and then he was like, you know what? We're not doing this. Forget it. It's not happening, Karen. She was like, come on, please. And she started weeping. And then she was like, no, I'm done, and we're not getting married. And then as soon as the traffic cleared up, he was like, hey, all right.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's a lunatic, Howie.
Well, that's what the horn is for. It doesn't
Yeah.
I mean, in different places it works differently, but here it's just, I'm angry. I'm frustrated. And then
It's
we
like
got to deal with that
any
shit.
rogue emotion that comes up.
Yeah.
Do you get pissed off when you're in traffic? I can't really drive, so.
I do. Yeah.
Is that a moment where you'd get, like, will you lose your temper in those moments?
Not like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely, kind of classic, muttering like, "Come on, this fucking asshole doing," that kind of stuff. And I did about a year ago. It was just me and my daughter, and there was something happening in Chinatown, and anytime you have to go down Canal, it's. Although I got to say, the congestion pricing, I don't know. Oh, you don't really drive, but down, I mean, it's cut easily 15 minutes off of drive time, like getting to the Holland Tunnel.
That is kind of a smart thing.
I mean,
everybody was bitching about it, but it's not bad. Yeah.
I've noticed it several times now. Like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And anyway, but there was something happened. There was no, all the cars were just sort of there, like what you imagine in India,
Yeah.
like just, there's no lane, no people trying to turn. And it's just, and it was a fucking nightmare. And I ended up, and my daughter was in the car. I just put my car in park and went up to this guy who was just sitting there, like, you need to turn. You have to be aggressive. And went up, banged on his window and just was like, hey man, this is all because of you now. All right. And
what was his vibe? What did he say?
He was, I think, a little shook, but also understood. And I was like, that honking is about you. That's you. You need to. They'll let you in eventually. You got to be aggressive here. And and eventually, he did it because there was no. Sometimes they'll have.
That's nicer than a lot of people would talk to him for somebody. If you're going to go up to somebody's car, like, he's not going to hear. Like, that's pretty. I need those voices in my head sometimes. Like, that's because of you. That's something.
I had a guy. I just remember this. I've forgotten about this until just this moment. But I was in L.A. and a guy hit me. I rolled my window down and he was either like German or Austrian or Belgian or something, but he was an older guy. He and a younger guy, I'm going to assume it was his son, were in front of me, and I can't remember what. There was some minor thing that I might have like cut him off a little bit or something that was nothing major, but like a dick. Nobody was in
they're
danger or
Nazis,
anything.
So they were already.
But and they were in front of me, and they honked, and then I smiled and waved at him like hi, and then the guy, it was a red light. He got out of his car, came over. I rolled my window down, like this ought to be but it was like a slap. It wasn't even a.
Oh, I thought you meant hit your car.
No.
He fucking hit you.
Yeah, he wasn't
That's
like a closed fist thing. It was like when
like
when a grandpa gets angry.
That's insane.
And I was like, what the fuck? And then he walked back to his car and like.
Meanwhile, all you did was wave. But that infuriated him more than anything.
Oh, that made him angry.
Yeah,
like this guy's not taking my anger seriously.
Wow. Did he say anything when he smacked you? That's outrageous.
I honestly don't remember because it was such a shocker. Like, it didn't hurt.
Stories like that because they make me feel so stable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't have the slightest impulse to get out of my car.
Here's the other thing.
Smack a person. I should give myself credit for that.
But he doesn't know a thing about me. This was, I'm going to say, 25 years ago. So I was younger and not, he doesn't know a thing about me. Like, I could have a gun in the car. It's LA.
Yeah.
And I could have been, I could have been ripped, and then jumped out of the car. I could know Krav Maga, whatever.
That's a funny thing to say to somebody in anger.
I know Krav Maga.
I could have been ripped. I could be jacked for all you know.
But
yeah,
so
I mean, it's a
the
crazy sway. It's just so fascinatingly insane. And what did you do back? Did you say anything? And
I don't remember. I honestly,
it happened
I don't think I said anything. And it was just such a like, wow, that was fucked up. And then, by then he's in his car and the light turned green. But I was like, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
that really does make me feel like I'm in control.
he was an older dude. He was like, I mean, I'm going to guess, 65, 70. Like, weird.
Sometimes those guys are the craziest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like my dad is God knows what he's up to in his car. My brother looked him up on some kind of like website where you can see where people's like, I guess, criminal things. And my dad had like a few hit and runs that he hadn't told any of us about.
Hit and run?
I believe so. Maybe I should be saying this on a podcast.
I mean, it's one.
Like, there were some complaints. I'm not really sure exactly what they were, but they were hit and run-esque complaints. Like, yeah, he's been up to things. Like, we are all like, nobody can drive with dad. Like, we
vehicular
don't know. Yeah, he's got
homicide?
paint on this. No,
How about that?
Not people. But I think like parked cars at like the mall or something. He's got some paint in his car. He's got like this old,
so he's not a good driver.
90-year-old, grocery getter. No, he's not. He's unhinged, and nobody should be in the car with him.
Or around him, or just near him when he's operating a vehicle.
He's like pretty sweet when he's not in the car. Howie Feinstein is a nice man. He's always volunteering for some liberal cause, but when it comes to him in the car, get your kids out of the streets because he'll kill them.
Yeah. We should send him to some of these like Proud Boy marches. Just go down there. I've got some, just give him some shopping lists or something and then see what happens.
He's always like, it's funny because he's always, he would be good in that scenario, I guess. Yeah, because when something about driving, I don't know, it doesn't mix with some men. He's not an emotional guy. I've never even seen him cry except for like at the Baseball Hall of Fame. But not at my wedding, not a tear.
He crashed into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooper. He was going to Cooperstown and just rammed right through the front doors. Oh no, the Ernie Banks exhibit.
I love that Wait, are you into baseball?
Very much, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your teams?
Wow, teams with an S, plural. That's a rare question.
Okay.
And I do have two teams.
Do you? Which ones?
I do.
Because my dad has two teams too. I feel like real big baseball fans have like a case for having two teams.
I do. I grew up in Atlanta, so I was a Braves fan, and then I moved to Boston, and it's almost impossible to live in Boston and not be a Red Sox fan. And because they were American League, and this is before interleague stuff, I was like, oh, I can be a fan of both. That's easy.
Yeah.
And so I was a Braves fan going way back. And then and I also, when I was a kid, I loved Dwight Evans and Jim Rice, and I mean there were I was just way into baseball. So Carlton Fisk, Yastrzemski, I mean there were just guys that on the Red Sox that I loved, and it was so classic. Like the Braves were kind of, the teams were good, but the fans are boring and the stadium was boring, and to go to Fenway and like in the middle of my first apartment was, I don't know, 7 blocks away from there, and you could cut through the fence.
Do you take your daughter to see baseball?
I took her to see a Cyclones game, and she had a blast. And but I think that was more, in fact, not I think, I know it was more about
snacks.
It was about all the things that surround the game.
Yeah,
the game,
that's how I was.
They're not. Yeah. The players aren't. It's not an exciting game, and but you're right on the boardwalk, Coney Island, and as the sun sets, everything lights up at Luna Park and all the rides and everything. So, and because it's a single A minor league team, there's just constant stimulation. There's not a quiet moment. There's no organ. It's just like every, music for the batter, and then the guy, their mascot is some weird, he wears a suit, like a brightly colored suit, but then a king hat. He's like, I'm king, whatever the fuck it is. And there's, dancers and cheerleaders and giveaways and
I remember being just completely fascinated by it all. Like my dad would take me to Orioles games a lot, and
you're from Baltimore?
Yeah, we grew up in Maryland. Yeah, but he was also a San Francisco Giants fan because he was born in Queens, and then his family moved, I guess, around the same time the Giants moved. Mm-hmm. So now he has a scrapbook that he's made of San Francisco Giants and their accomplishments, I guess. And it's like 300 pages, and he's always driving back and forth to the library to Xerox things. Isn't that the most ancient word you've ever heard? So he's always just like, I got to get this done for the scrapbook. And he always acts like he's on a stiff deadline. Like people, well,
he's got the San Francisco Giants team is about to retire. He wants to give it to him at the retirement ceremony up on the dais. And I believe the retirement ceremony is going to be in the wood grain room of the Holiday Inn off of it's kind of in like Fairfax.
Wait, I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
This is true?
No.
Okay, I believed you.
Why?
That's how little I know about baseball. I was like, oh, they're going to be done.
It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and you think they're going to have a retirement party?
I run kind of dumb. I was hoping I wouldn't say something really stupid here today.
That was pretty stupid.
Because I feel like you run smart, and I run kind of dumb, and I was like, just get it together. Like, get a few facts under your belt. But I fully believed you. Somebody will say something to me in a serious voice, and I'm like, okay, that's immediately my new reality. And whenever like a clip goes like viral of some like bimbo saying something really dumb, I always feel for her, because in those key moments where I need my mind, it just closes like a box.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember that I mean, it was demonstrably one of the dumbest things ever, but that I did feel bad for that. The lady. South Carolina.
Yes.
Yeah.
I felt bad for her. I was like, I could see myself doing that. Yeah.
But
just like my mind, just like saying a bunch of things that were
you're on this big national stage spotlight. Yeah. I mean, part of the idea is like you're supposed to be prepared for that and ready for that. But
sure.
But and that was a doozy of an answer. But yeah, you can't help but like I'm sure
my friends and I went out to go see a magician the other night, because it was one of my friends I grew up with. It was his birthday, and he was really into magic, so we surprised him with this weird room where there's like all these magicians, and they come to your table and they do stuff with you, and it was actually amazing. It was here in Manhattan. Like you go through this like laundromat, but it's not really a laundromat, and then the guy like takes you behind. It was kind of cool, and the magicians were pretty funny actually. And they come to your table and they sit with you anyway. And then they look at me, and I'm like, just no trivia, because like my mind will shut down. And they were just like, just name a city, and I couldn't name a fucking city. I think I said Pennsylvania, and the whole table just laughed for like, that was just the joke the entire night. My mind just closes. It's like, nope, sorry, we're not going to do this. And I knew they were going to ask me a question. I was like, fuck.
So that isn't dumb. I mean, it sounds like it's dumb. It's just an incredible, brain fart thing.
Yeah.
It happens like you'll be watching Jeopardy or playing trivia or something, and then there's something like, oh, I fucking know this, and you can't think of it, and you've got, several seconds, half a minute, and you're like, fuck, oh God, and then you hear the answer, and you're like, of course, I knew that.
Yeah, exactly, and you know it. Yeah, that happened, and also I think it's because I was like a wild moron in school, so I just like anything that feels like school, my brain just shuts down.
So how did you get smart when you got smart? How did you learn? What?
I still feel like I get credit for being smart because I'm like sarcastic and Jewish, but I don't really have a tremendous amount of information at pay.
It's just intuitive
I mean, I feel like I'm maybe like emotionally a little intuitive, but in terms of information, I feel like I run pretty thin. But I mean, I never went to college. I got like D's and F's. There was just a lot of meetings about me constantly getting scanned. My parents would argue about my scans all the time. My mom's a therapist.
Like a CAT scan?
Brain scans. They would brain scan me all the time.
So you were getting CAT scans because of school?
Yeah, it was like emergency dumb. That's what I'm saying. I was like, it was
wait a minute.
Emergency.
Wow.
EEGs, is that what's called? EKG, EEG? I see. I don't even know the difference.
Oh, I thought it was
for
a
the
cat.
heart.
Is
I think
it
when's the
not a cat? What am I thinking of?
The one with suction cups is the one that I got routinely.
Oh no, in somebody's garage? Yeah, that's made up. They're not. That's not a real thing. When they put suction cups and you're in somebody's garage, that's you're so dumb.
Was like
they exploited that.
I feel like all her energy went into scanning me. I remember waking up once and they were arguing about me, and my mom was like, "She's not normal Howard shit. And my dad was like, we'll scan her again. We'll keep scanning.
So it was your parents' idea or the school's idea?
I think the school was like, I went to like speech, every extra service I could get. I was always being like softly, like whispered out by some lady named like Judith or something was always taking me out of the classroom. So I got all the extra services, but still they were pretty stumped. And they would decide that I had certain things and then they would scrap it and start all over again.
Wow.
So one of the things they thought I had was this, I don't even know if it's still a disorder, but it was called figure ground, where you can't decipher between one person speaking in a sea of voices. Like you literally can't hear the teachers, which is complete bullshit. Because of course I could hear, I just like wasn't compelled to listen for whatever reason. But, and they thought, my mom's like, she's got figure ground. I remember she was always on the phone talking about me. She'd be like, she's got figure ground. That's what it is. We figured it out.
That's got to affect your self-esteem, I would imagine. Overhearing this, knowing all this, keep going like, I'm dumb and they don't know why I'm dumb and they're trying to figure out why I'm dumb is a thing that you're taking away from that. And that's a terrible thing for a kid to have to deal with.
No, obviously I'm unwell. There's a lot of reasons.
And so what, was anything discovered? Was any kind of...
I had like ADD, but like, I think a lot of people say they have ADD now, but not to the level that I have it, like it's kind of
people say
more
they've got
popularized. But like I had like, and I still am like this
like,
where
I don't have celiac disease, but I kind of do. So I don't eat gluten because I sort of have it. Not really. They say like it doesn't show up, but I have it like in my brain. My brain has it. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how, like, I feel like a lot of people say that now. They're like, oh, but I'm like, I would leave things, like, everywhere. I still do this. Like, the most confusing things. Like, my daughter's, like, we had a little meeting at her preschool, and I left, like, my debit card, my passport. Like, I leave suitcases. So I just have...
Whoa. You leave suitcases?
I've left a whole suitcase just, like, by the... Like, I'm about to board a plane. I just leave it by the plane. I've done that a couple times. Yeah.
Well,
it's not good.
Wait, you leave it like by your seat where you're sitting, your carry-on. No. What?
Like I'm about to board the plane and I just leave the suitcase there and then just go off to Kansas or whatever.
Oh boy.
It's not good. It's a real pain in the ass to deal with me. Like I'm a hassle.
How does your husband,
because I lose other people's things, that would infuriate him. He's like runs a real tight like military OCD, he's a fire captain.
Wow, you guys are not meant to be together.
No, of course not. And he also is just enraged about it all the time. I'm like, this is me. You signed on for this. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same really as me expecting some kind of emotional aptitude for like, I'm him to be like emotionally present anyway. He's like an emotional desert. And I'm just like, can we discuss one thing? Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
But no, he's always gets very upset with me. I'm better now.
I don't blame him.
Of course, no, it's enraging.
Because also you're an adult, and I guess that
I was hoping you'd say that to me today.
But the thing is,
I'm better now. Okay, I haven't lost a suitcase.
And
in a long
you're
time.
better now because finish the sentence.
Because of medication and therapy and working on myself in different ways, whatever that.
So
means.
you figure, but what's the thing that makes you? Because I doubt it's medication that makes you go, oh, I've been leaving my suitcases by the door of the plane. I'm going to do something that will ensure that I don't do that anymore or do it less.
I mean, I think that I was really an emotional fog as well. So I do feel like going to therapy for a long time, that fog gets lifted. Like I think when you're kind of like not processing things, you're just going around like like you're batshit crazy, honestly. So I think like therapy had helped me because, you just kind of learn to let go of certain things and not to. And I do think that when you grow up with always kind of apologizing or over apologizing for, feeling like I've definitely felt like I was just, I've obviously learned to think of this a little differently, but I was just responsible for everybody's pain in the whole family. If I wasn't so damn dumb, that everybody wouldn't be so stressed. They'd get better sleep,
Oh, that's terrible. That's quite a burden. That's the thing. Your mom and dad having those conversations and like, we got to scan her.
I know.
Scan her again. Figure out why she's dumb. That's got to affect you.
Of course. Yeah. Now, even when I smell a school, it takes me back to those like feelings and memories about what school meant to me. So I'm so determined for my daughter to have a vastly different experience.
And did you grow up in suburbs or rural?
I grew up in the suburbs in Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, I mean, they were really good people, my parents. I don't think they realized how much of this I was absorbing. But, you know.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
you know.
but I mean, he's my dad. My mom's a therapist. My dad was a civil rights lawyer and a blues musician. And so they were kind of like very focused on other people's trauma, you know? And I don't think they always realized.
God, you're right.
Yeah.
That's it's interesting. You know, in that kind of physician heal thyself way that they're doing all this stuff externally, and in their home there's a kid and they're not even aware like of what the consequences of this kind of thing could be later. That's especially for a therapist.
I think that my mom was just like thought she was helping me. Like she was just like at her wit's end trying to help me.
Yeah.
But it's like but I think there could have been like a little bit more like maybe structure within the home and some.
And do
like,
you brothers and sisters?
I have 2 brothers. Yeah, an older brother and a younger brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and the middle kid too.
Yeah.
Which also has its own shit.
I do remember like I would go to school and like my hair would be wet a lot and it would be dripping down my back a lot. And then people at school would be like, call me wetback. And then my mom thought it was like a racial slur. So she was always like just ready to, like nothing invigorates my mom more than institutionalized racism. And that's all she wants to talk about is like racial suffering, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, my back is wet. Like they're not calling me a wet, they're not calling me like a Mexican slur. They're calling, my back's wet. They're trying to help me out. But my mom was already like up in arms about that. But I was also like, well, why was my back wet? Like, why wouldn't people help me? So I just remember everybody just being like, what, Rachel, for crying out fuck? And I'm like, but I can't imagine just sending my kid with like a wet back to school. Like, I should have just gotten up earlier. They should have gotten me up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there was a little bit like they saw my mom. I feel like she always kind of was looking like this. And I'm like, you kind of should have been a little more in charge and not like as afraid of me, because then I sort of felt like I was some kind of gangrenous monster.
But this all turned into ultimately you're a really sharp, clever stand-up with really good material. I saw your special. I really enjoyed it. Not just for this show, not for the podcast. I saw it a while ago and like really, really enjoyed it. And also you're a very good impressionist.
Oh, thank you. That means a tremendous amount from you.
And that just when you're doing like, you know, your mom or dad or various people, it's really like spot on. Like you've got those people down, and it's not just a matter of like, you know, like, and I'm going to interrupt myself here for a second, but it occurred to me just walking down the street the other day. I haven't seen a song parodiist. Is that how you say it? In stand-up, I haven't seen one since like I was doing stand-up, like in the clubs.
Yeah.
Like you just don't see the people doing like, bringing a guitar up there and doing.
You're right. Yeah.
Like,
I remember like Rob Paravonian and like I don't remember a lot of people that did that though. Yeah, you're right.
There were a handful of people.
Yeah.
I mean, but
like Sandler,
like in 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
But I just haven't seen one in a long time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, but it's not like, you know, your impressions aren't like, yes, you do sound like Woody Allen, like and there's no material behind it.
Right.
And obviously, you know, there's a lot of your stuff is about the kind of contradictory nature of your relationship with your husband, who is, as you just, you know, complete opposite.
Yeah.
And with, I don't know what the culture is like, fireman culture. I certainly prefer it to police culture, but is there having a brassy, loud, jokey, sarcastic wife? Is that, are you?
He's strangely like. Sorry, what were you going to ask me?
Are there more of you in the fireman wives? Brigade?
Fireman wife. I feel like there's like a lot of strong women, but I don't feel like we have that much in common. A lot of us. You know, there's not like a ton of. I feel like he should have married like, I don't know, like a nurse or an esthetician. Yeah, like named Gina or something. Yeah. We don't have like a ton of crossover. I feel like they tend to run a tighter ship, and they have to be kind of sturdy, like for a lot of different reasons. A lot of them are nurses, and that's a hard job. But they're definitely not like, they're, a lot of them are very Catholic, and, and they're like Catholic, like I'm always like at a baptism now for like some lieutenant named Anthony or something. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a totally different world from everything that I come from. I just describe my parents, my mom is like never not at a march. Like, I just remember her always making signs. Even the artwork in our house was like, Steve Biko did not die in vain. It was just all like black men carrying coffins in like every room, So our families are like
they should
wildly
move to
opposite.
New Orleans.
Wait, what did you say?
They should move to New Orleans.
My dad we would go to New Orleans every year for the Jazz Fest because now he's a full-time.
There's plenty of black men
carrying coffins. There. You're right. Yeah, he'd be right at home, Howie. But
and how do your folks get along with your husband and vice versa?
I feel like my mom loves. My mom, like, it's funny you say, like, my mom loves Pete because he's. First of all, we call it pain chambering, but she's always loves to get to the bottom of somebody's trauma, And so she's always kind of trying to pain chamber Pete, which he's...
Pain chamber.
I call it pain chambering.
That sounds like the name of a metal band on an 80s sitcom.
It does.
No daughter of mine's getting... Well, I don't care who... You're not going out dressed like that. I don't care. Pain chamber.
You're right. It does seem like somewhere, like it's like a pretend metal band. They'd go to it like Saved by the Bell or something. Yeah. No, I've used the term, it's not a real term, but to refer to like whenever my mom has somebody in a long conversation about a neighbor's illness, it could be like a neighbor's like colon cancer. My mom loves to update other people about really dark medical information about someone they've never met in the first place. And so she loves to pain chamber Pete because she figures now she can talk to him about, the neighbor's insulin issues and stuff like that. And she kind of does this thing with her eyes where she sort of locks you in and she goes full chamber. And Pete, like it's fascinating because you can't pain chamber Pete. He doesn't even know what happened to him. Like, it's anyone's guess if he was molested. No one knows. You know what I mean? So you can't. So she just loves to kind of get at Pete because she knows that he's experienced some shit because, they see stuff on the job and, so she's always trying to kind of just if you talk about your trauma with my mom, she'll do like a horror crawl towards you. She has like a leg up, so she's always trying to pain chamber Pete, and Pete wants nothing with this, by the way. He's always like, your mom tried to chamber me in the kitchen again. Like, we were away this summer like, at a beach house, and he was like, yeah, your mom pain chambered me. You were nowhere in sight. My mom like talked to him for like 30 minutes about this woman that she doesn't even know personally who died in some horrific way. By the way, this is her favorite story. It's just somebody went up in a hot air balloon and it just broke and they all perished. I'm like, it's so fucking haunting. And my mom will tell that to anyone that will listen.
There's no story to tell.
There's no story. It's just somebody went up and they died immediately in a hot air balloon. Yeah, that's it. And that's the part she wants to get to and
There's
really
nothing to get behind.
It's it sucks. You're right. It doesn't have enough ingredients as a story. I once texted my mom, how are you? And this, I swear to God, this was her exact answer. And then she was like, did I tell you that, Muriel's daughter, Aaliyah, had a tongue procedure? Her tongue is curled on the left side, and that both parents are frazzled and pretty overwhelmed by this and pretty afraid about the consequences of some of these test results they're going to get soon.
My God.
I don't know who any of these people are. That was, how are you?
Yeah.
We went into a third party's tongue procedure. Oh, yeah. So
stop asking how she is.
I know. You can't ask my mom that because she'll just tell you about
just a statement. Hi, Mom. Assume you're doing good.
That's right. That's what I need to do.
You can't be anything with a question.
Because then if I tell her I don't want to talk about these people I don't know and their particular details of their diseases, then she's a victim. Oh, well, I guess I'm the bad guy. Then she'll start weeping or something.
Yes, you are the bad guy. I mean, in a relative sense, you're not horrible, but in this scenario, you are the bad guy.
You are.
My little sister, and no one else in my family does it, but my little sister is one of those. We'll have it's the same kind of thing, but we'll have a 10-minute long monologue about people I don't know, I haven't met, and I will never meet. Cause Tanya at work, she was all like, and Mr. Bentley came over and he had said, you better hush up or you're going to get fired. And Tanya came over and Tanya was with Princess, and Princess had to go because she didn't get her vacation time, and just like, what? I don't know any of these people. I will
This is your sister?
Yeah, my little sister. I have two younger sisters, but she's the youngest.
Wow. And so, but you have no accent whatsoever, but she has like a thing.
I don't. Yeah, I I was born in Atlanta and then moved around a bunch of places and moved every single year, and then was in from like 6, 7, or 7, 8, 9 was in New York and Connecticut, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9. Then when I was 9, moved back to Georgia where I stayed, but I was old enough and I kind of rejected it all, and Julie I think would have been 5, 4.5, 5, and then my other sister Wendy would have been 7.
Were you in the middle too?
No, I'm the oldest, and so they picked up the accent, but I also was angry about having to move back down there. I was happy where I was.
Were they in the army, one of your parents?
No, my dad just got fired all the time.
And then he would just move everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he was one of those guys. I'm estranged from him, but he was one of those guys, like nothing was ever his fault. You can't fire me. I quit. Mm-hmm. And then, like, well, no, you can quit, but there's nothing to quit because I already fired you. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You can't fire me. You're fired. I just fired you. I mean, you can quit. I guess you can try to get the job back, and then you can quit. But you're not going to get the job back because I just fired you.
It'll
be on your record, and I'll look at your record.
Apologizing. I mean, that's such a fascinating. Like, I'm always like, I'm sorry, I'm here. Yeah, like.
My dad is
fascinating. The opposite. He won't know accountability.
None. Zero.
It's interesting because you seem very much the opposite and grounded and a very good dad.
Well, yeah, he affected my life in a. The negatives have. Hopefully made me, I think they have. I think there's enough time has gone in this kid experiment to say it's at least a success so far. But yeah, I mean, I'm there, I'm present, I'm,
accountable, and
I try to, pass that on to our daughter. And it was like we moved literally every year from.
That's crazy.
And then we moved down to Roswell, Georgia, and then he left. I don't know, a year later maybe, and he left. Like he went to Arizona, because he knew a guy who knew a guy.
Were you angry when he left, or were you relieved, or both?
Oh, I wasn't relieved at all. I still had like dad worship until I was probably like 13, 14. Like I really.
That makes sense. Of course, you're a little kid. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, and he was funny. He was a really funny, gregarious guy. Not that bright. The exact opposite of my mom, who's very antisocial. And doesn't care to have a bunch of friends. Has 1 or 2 friends. That's fine. Reads all the time. Really smart. Socially awkward and capable of being funny, but that's not her thing. My dad was very performative funny and got me into comedy, and but not a bright guy.
When you became really successful, did he reach out or try to
He because when I had there was a phone call. I had gone, this is a long story and it's too long to tell here, but I was working in Tampa Bay at some shitty comedy club there, and so I was there for a week, and I'd gone down with my friend Matt from high school, and I was opening, and he was living in Fort Myers, which 2.5, 3 hour drive, something like that.
Yeah, I know. Right?
And he's like, and I told him, and he's like, oh, that's so exciting. I'm going to get get me a table. I'm going to bring a bunch of people from the restaurant. He was working at this restaurant. And we'll all come up. We'll come up on Wednesday. Great. Awesome. Reserve a table. Joe comes and goes. He never shows up. And this is back, payphone time, So I'm, hey, Dad, so what's going on? Yeah, so sorry. I got slammed. Wasn't able to. But tonight, I'll be able to come tonight. And this went on. And
unbelievable.
And he had also said, like, hey, after your run, because it was winter. I remember that. So there's nothing going on. I'm going to take you and your friend out. You can come to the restaurant. You can eat, all that stuff, and come down and hang out in Fort Myers. Great. So the week, again, there's way more detail to this. But the week goes on. He never shows up. And that's right. And I end up going down to his place, driving down. It's like, as I said, it's almost 3 hours, which adds 3 hours back to Atlanta on the drive. And I'm with my friend, and we go to his apartment, and he's not there. And we end up, those kind of, you see them a lot in Florida, those windows that you kind of crank open. They're like little Venetian blind, but they're glass, like frosted glass. So he had one of those in his bathroom. And I remember taking each piece off one by one and climbing through. My dad's not there, opening the door, crashing on the couch. He comes in completely disheveled at like 6:30 a.m. in a tux, like a suit. And he's completely disheveled and sees us. And he's like, oh, and then comes up with the craziest lie you've ever heard, which was he was stuck on a sandbar on Christopher Walken's boat with his girlfriend, I believe, Donna Mills.
Good God, this is wild.
And there's more to it. In fact,
was he an alcoholic or just like a sociopathic liar, pathological liar?
That's part of
narcissist.
It's part of my, like, I'll never be suckered by a guy like Trump. Like, I can see through Trump
right
easily. And it's like, oh, that's my dad. Everything is somebody else's fault and and I don't know how the multitude of things that you have to look past that are clear, blatant lies or based on narcissism or whatever it is with Trump. The hundreds of thousands of examples. But back when he was talking about running, like, this guy is a liar, and he's a liar. Like, I know that kind of personality.
That brand
now, my dad's not a petty evil guy. He doesn't care about revenge or any of that shit, and he's not racist. But he's all about himself, and it's all everything's. Things are transactional.
Insanely selfish, not really capable of empathy, right?
He can. I
can't understand doing it to a kid.
Game.
Like, it upsets me so much when something I thought was going to be true turns out not to be, and I'm always make such an effort to explain to my daughter, like, this is the factor that I know I thought that was going to happen, but here's why. It's so important to me. I can't imagine just like
the shit that my sister Wendy and I found out. Just out of becoming older and more experienced and going, oh, that thing that we witnessed, that wasn't this, that was that. And explanations for different people's behavior around us from when we were kids. Like, oh, the reason that lady tossed you off your big wheel and then threw it at me and said, you goddamn brats, in a thick Southern accent, you goddamn brat, no wonder your father left you. Like, oh, now we know the reason for that. The lady who lived downstairs. As we got older, there were all kinds of things like, those guys weren't stealing the car.
That car belonged to them, and they were.
It was repossession. Yeah.
Right.
Like all kinds of
Yeah.
they're
Thank God you have a sibling, because I feel like when you don't have a sibling and you're the only one. I mean, like Jessica Curson, Jessica, she always says like a lot of comics were like the truth tellers in their family, like they wanted people to deal with reality, and people when somebody in the family was resistant or whatever. So, but like, thank God you have a sibling to like to just sift through all this with, because at least then you can be like, you can figure it out together.
And we did, and
one that wants to do that. Some people just want to live in whatever facade their parents created or whatever.
Yeah, I going way back to circle back to the thing about the estrangement was, so I'd come back from Tampa Bay, which is, if you ever, I can't remember, I think it's on my first special on HBO, I think. The Pride is Back, I believe. But I have this story about the funniest thing I've ever seen about an elephant pissing on people. And that took place during this week, like when I was in Tampa Bay to do stand-up. Anyway, but yeah, so he called the apartment that we all lived in, and Julie answered the phone, talks for a minute, and then she's like, David, it's Dad. Dad wants to talk to you. And I said, oh, tell him I'm done and I'm not speaking to him again. And she says something to, over the phone, and she goes, he said that's okay because the only time you ever talk to him is to ask for money, which is so insanely not true and hurtful. And in that like Trumpian sense, like, oh, that's the one thing this motherfucker could say that would hurt me. Like, there's nothing else. Yeah,
and also you're his son. Like,
but it's also not true.
First of all, yeah, it's not true, I'm sure. But then also,
he owes me money. He stole from me. He took my bar mitzvah money.
He stole your bar mitzvah money.
He asked for it.
Yeah.
He said he was coming back to
oh my God, that's
Atlanta.
So crazy.
This is such a fucking long story, Rachel. But he asked me for money for a down payment on to live in an apartment, and that was probably when I was 13, 14, and then I got it back in the form of there was a school trip. So this would have been 4 years later, and school trip to New York, and I needed money for the trip.
Sure.
And he gave, my mom had saved some. Gave me a couple $100 for everything. There's a hotel and the bus, and it's a school trip. And he's like, I'll help you out. I'll help you out. And then he gave me that money as we were going onto the bus. He's like, here's the money I took from you. And he just gave it back like in an envelope, the money from my bar mitzvah that he for my school to pay for my school trip. Yeah. And
yeah, well, they say like with that level of like narcissism, just whatever they say to you is what they did, So it's like if they accuse you of being a liar, they're a liar. Like, so it's like, oh, when he called you for money, he used you for money in his own son. Yeah, so then he says it to you.
I heard from a cousin, and I'm also once, and this kind of sucked in a major way, but once my dad left us, like we barely heard from anybody in the family. Like they never checked in. We were just like not, my mom and my sisters and I were just not ever, there were a handful of people, like a cousin here or there. Actually, no, we had one aunt. Anyway, barely anybody.
Wow.
And he came from 5 kids and extended family. And so I barely heard from anybody after that, which also sucked.
Of assholes. Like there's children involved.
But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so a cousin told me about and you might have experienced this too, but people that never really checked in on us, cared, never extended any kind of invitation, and that sort of ended. But guess when they started getting back in touch? This may shock you, but as I
became famous,
I
can't believe it.
Yeah. Oh, I would get. Yeah.
And it was like, I've always been your cousin. It's wild.
Can we get tickets to your show? My son, who you've got to meet, is a big fan of Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh my God.
And we'd love to come see you. Wow, interesting. And I try to, be.
And your dad?
My dad. So my dad said one thing to my middle sister, who kind of gave him more rope than any of us. Mm-hmm. My little sister, he never cared about. She can't do anything for him. And they're
so if you can't do anything for him, you're useless.
Yeah,
wow.
So he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Not curious. And I'd always wondered how, and I also wondered if it was a genetic thing, and I was worried about that, about having a kid, because I always wanted kids. Mm-hmm. But the idea is this do I have that chip in my head that goes, that switches at some point, you go, yeah, it's not for me, and leaves. Right. And I'm going to move to London. See you guys. Best of luck.
Right.
And I
feel like a lot of times it is unfortunately true that when it's one or the other, you either become exactly like the guy, or you do the opposite even more. You become more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's pretty clear at this point. Yeah. It's like that you did the opposite. But I do feel like a lot of people that come from, unfortunately, one of their parents is a ludicrous asshole, that they become like a really kind, or really, it's really important to them to be there and to be present and to mean what they say and say what they mean and all that. Yeah. So you have more character sometimes, unfortunately. Like I feel like Sam Morril's like that. He's one of my best friends, and his dad left early. He's a funny comic. Yeah. And his dad.
I love Sam. He's really, really,
he's incredibly incredible. And his dad, is just similar situation. I mean, it's just like, I remember Sam saying once that his dad was like, you'll understand this all when he left early on, and then he's like, it'll all make sense when you're 18. You go to this, you get to get this safe deposit box, and it'll explain everything. There'll be like a letter. You can't just explain. It's not like a map. This isn't a fucking maze and treasure hunt.
Wait, like a last will and testament type of thing?
No, like basically like when you're 18, I can tell you everything, like why I haven't been present. It doesn't work like that. It's not like a spy novel.
What was,
where you open
what was
a locker.
What was the answer?
I asked Sam, and it was like, he's like, it was nothing at all. Like it was less than nothing. There wasn't a map or even a zany treasure hunt inside. It was just like a couple things that he had forgotten to give him, or some utter bullshit that in no way excused him not being a dad. But he was just like, it'll all make sense. Like it's not a harebrained scheme. You were a father, or you weren't one.
Hey,
But Sam is the opposite. He's like you. He's very like, what he says is what he means. A very honorable person.
Yeah. I get the id and the selfish thing of like, man, it would be, you'd be giving up so much, and I would never do it, and it's not worth it. But like, just to go have a reset in life.
Sure.
I go, you know what? I want to be single again. I want to go wherever I want to go, and I don't want to have to worry about this stuff. And I want to, experience this and this and this. And it's like an idea that, is a fantasy in a sense, but it's just says so much for, dads and moms who do that. I'm like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Like with the mom, I think has got to be even more.
Yeah, there's something even so
traumatic
about that. Like it's bizarre to me. Yeah, because there's such a instinct.
And, people kill their kids. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you kill your wife on your honeymoon.
I know. It's often on the honeymoon too.
You don't have to kill them. There's other things to do.
Them.
Yeah,
that's another thing that I do often when I watch murder, because for some reason I do watch a lot of hostile amount of slaying on TV. But although I will say I watched less after I became a parent for some reason. I don't know if that's like that redeems me in any way. But I do have that thought too. I'm like, I don't have the slightest desire to kill a hooker. Like it does make me feel better about myself when I'm like, I don't want to. No, I don't wake up. Some people wake up in the dead of the night and they're like, I have to go hunt co-eds. And I'm like, I don't have the slightest desire to do that. I don't pat myself on the back enough for that. Yeah, but I do think there's
I
something.
think that's you should open with that. Let everybody know. Here's one good thing. Hey, you can judge me, and by the end of the set, you may be walking out. That's fine. But I have never had the desire to go kill hookers.
Exactly. A little self-absorbed, sure.
Yeah.
But do I want to kill a prostitute? Not in the slightest. I say let them be. Let them be. I'm a fucking nun, obviously.
That's
and I
the hill
always
you're
explain
gonna
this
die
to my daughter. I actually wrote a book, a children's book, where I explain this. But no, but I mean, it is like it. I do feel like when people just are like, oh, I'm going to go kill all the kids. I do feel like when a mom kills the kids, when a dad kills the kids, it's like a heightened sense. I'm talking completely out of my ass right now, but it's like a heightened sense of they're not just an asshole, they're an extreme. But when a mom kills her kids, I do feel like she's just crazy. Like you're never going to get a mom that's like such a bitch. She killed her kids. I feel like it's like they think the kids are Satan. If the mom kills the kids, she's also like stabbing snakes in the bathtub.
No. That's not. We know that.
All right, I don't know.
Was the Casey Anthony? She wanted to party, and and her kid was in the way.
Yeah, she was just a godless whore. You're absolutely right.
And there's plenty of them.
But the same night, you're right. She didn't think you're right. She wasn't like hallucinating. But yeah, she was fascinating because it was like the same night that she went into like I think she like entered herself into like a hot body contest of some sort. Like she was just like, oh, I have to go into this like greased whoring contest. Oh. Like it was like hours after. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I mean but there is. I guess that's not insanity, but I feel like isn't it?
But also, it's insane for a man to kill his kids too. There's an insanity. It is insane,
but I do feel like it's like even more rare for women.
Just murder itself. Is a crazy reaction. You know,
they're all insane. You're right, but like I'm assuming that most moms that kill their kids are schizophrenic, and you're right, that's not true at all. But that Casey Anthony thing, it's like. Yeah, I mean, it is wild to even think about. Yeah, but I do think that it's more rare, wouldn't you say? I'm trying to salvage a point so that I don't come off as such an asshole right now. Can you help me do that? It is more rare for women to kill their kids, right?
I have no idea. I really don't know.
I thought you studied the numbers on this.
I should have. Here's the thing, Rachel. I did, but I forgot. I forgot them.
I think it's got to be less, right? Let's go to a caller.
I take a night class.
From Des Moines, tell me the truth. All right, isn't it? Can you Google this, please?
Yeah, actually Google who kills their kids more, dads or moms.
Of course it's dads.
I think I already know.
You know, right?
Yeah.
You think it's the dads?
There's more men who kill.
Yeah. In general, more men commit homicide.
Yeah, I've always when they have those. Like on the whatever channel you watch the murder mystery shit or the true murders, whatever that shit is. But it's occasionally they'll have that, women who kill. That'll be like its own
right.
Or why do women kill? And it's like, why don't they? They should more. There should be more women who kill.
That is a great joke, actually.
I mean, right. I'm joking, but I'm not joking.
List. You're right, though. No, we have plenty of reasons.
Yeah, you should.
Lord
women should be killing
betrayed
more.
A little more than most guys. Yeah, like horrifically betrayed.
What do you got, Chris?
It says, more males than females were accused nationwide. A difference that appears to be increasing. Fathers are more likely than mothers to commit suicide after killing a child. So
they feel worse.
Yeah.
Fathers do more killing, but then they feel pretty bad about it. But it's still all
about them, though.
Yeah, it's still about them.
Because they're embarrassed.
I made an oopsie, and that's not going to look good on the final report.
It's about their ego and their boss.
Yeah.
You don't want their boss to find that out. It's humiliating. What if Stan finds out you killed your wife and kids? Absolutely embarrassing.
But I'm sure there's a lot of. I shouldn't say I'm sure. I would guess that there's a lot of those men who do that are perhaps ex-military, PTSD,
right.
Maybe some, maybe that was part of it. I know there's like religious kooks who do, male and female will do that.
I feel like also the guys more often when they kill their wives, they pretend to look for them, whereas I feel like the women they just like, I'll see myself out. But I feel like the guys always get a button with their face or something, and you always see that one interview like right before he's caught. I remember watching one of those like it was like Forensic Files or something, and they were like, "What do you miss most about Stacey?" And everybody knew at this point that he'd just absolutely killed the bejesus out of Stacey, but he was like, "Well," and you saw him start to get angry at her again when he started to think about her because he was just thinking about all the things that Stacey fucking did that made him have to kill her.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, she was skinny. And that was the only thing he could go off with.
Oh, my
she
Lord.
Was skinny. Because everything else was going to remind him of why he killed her, and he wasn't going to be able to sit there with that button with his shining eyes pretending like he was just checking every crevice for Stacey.
Yep.
But he's like, well, she was skinny. I do remember that.
It was like OJ's nonstop hunt for, the killer.
They always pretend to look for them, where the women just go like, they kind of get quiet. Yeah. But the guys will put on a big pin and act like they're checking under every couch.
Yeah. I don't know where she could...
where could she be?
It's just not like her to be murdered.
Yeah, as soon as I got back from that boating trip, she was nowhere in sight. How very strange and odd and unlike her. Yeah, they got to find her.
Rachel, would you tell myself and the listeners what you've got coming up that you would like to... That I will tell you... And the special's on what? Is it Netflix?
It's on Netflix. It's called Big Guy.
Really good. It's really good. Big Guy. Rachel Feinstein.
But people say it both ways. I never correct anybody. What's the difference? Rachel Feinstein. Not a hot name. Not a lot of Rachel Feinsteins in like porn. It's not a hot name.
Well, it's also just about the most Jewish name.
I know. It's a browbeating of Jewry.
Rachel's
it's
Old Testament name, and then Feinstein, that's clearly
And there's
Jew.
no way to soften it. I can't be like, oh, Rachel O. Feinstein or something. Like, it's just...
Well, that'd be silly.
That would be very silly. Yeah. Mick Feinstein would be pretty dumb.
Oh, Feinstein.
Sorry, I got lost in my foul name. So I have a special streaming
Why
now.
did you take your husband's name?
I should have. But
what's
I
his
felt
last
like
name?
At this point, Brennan. That's the only thing.
Rachel Brennan. Come on.
World. Rachel Brennan is a very handsome sounding name. But I guess I just figured with stand up at that point, I got married like 4 years ago. I was just starting to be able, people could find me by my name. But that was my dream when I was a kid. All I would do is write in my Trapper Keeper just any Catholic name, just anything to rinse this off of me. Yeah. I used to hate it when they'd call it Rachel Feinstein. Just like any guy that might have been attracted to me, I would watch them listen to the name and be like, ugh. Yeah, I'll find somebody else. So it's you can go to my website, rachel-feinstein.com, or and you can see my road schedule.
What a terrible website
Nashville.
name.
I know, it's
just
stupid.
Jewish. It's such a Jewish website name.
It's the name of people that control the media.
Yeah.
And no one else, and the weather and all of that. But when I'm not doing that, I'll be in Nashville and some other cities I can't remember.
Where are you going to play in Nashville?
I'm at Zanies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun club. So I'll be in Nashville next, and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and San Diego, some other cities, but they'll all be there.
Pennsylvania and New Jersey are states. Did
I just say city?
Yeah.
I did it again.
Just to let people.
I meant some cities inside of New Jersey. I'll be in Morrisville, New Jersey.
Not really a city, but maybe a township.
Right, township.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I'll be in Ellersville, Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's not a city either. I guess it's a town. Is that what you're going to tell me? I don't know.
No, I just haven't heard of it.
I don't know, but I need you to know at home. I need the listeners to know that I did know New Jersey is a state and not a city. But I was just speaking.
Pennsylvania is one that seems like it keeps tripping you up.
Yeah, I know it does.
Yeah,
that's anyone's guess whether I really know.
When you think of Pennsylvania,
I might know it, but I don't accept it.
When you think of Pennsylvania, just think it's the Keystone State, and the second part of that is
I know
state.
Pennsylvania's a state.
It's a Keystone State. It's not the Keystone City.
Because I know Philadelphia is a city because I'm a genius. So Philadelphia's inside of Pennsylvania. I have to know that.
Deep inside Pennsylvania.
I'm so fucking smart because I'm a Rhodes Scholar over here.
All right. Well, cool. I will urge the listeners to check out her special. It's very, very good. And I assume lots of new material.
Yes, I'm doing a new hour now on the road.
Nice.
It's not. You won't see anything from the special. I am. Yeah. So hopefully I'll have a new one out soon. But this will be a brand new hour.
You doing any impressions?
I do impressions always. I just tend to impersonate people when I talk about them.
We just got a teensy taste when you did your what was your favorite thing about Stacey voice from the Forensic Files, and you're very good at those voices.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. This was
absolutely
extra cool day for me.
Now, Rachel, I know. I don't know if I close every episode with a question for my daughter.
Aww.
Who just turned 8, but now is 7, or just turned 8. But
I love we both have one girl.
Came up with this when she was 7. And the question for you is, Rachel, why do people breathe rapidly when they're worried?
Ooh, that's a good.
Why do people breathe rapidly?
Rapidly is a big word. She sounds very bright. I think that they breathe rapidly when they're worried because they're feeling nervous, and when you're nervous, your body tends to do little physical things like breathe really fast, and so it's kind of your body's response to feeling a bit nervous about something. Maybe that's kind of obvious. I don't know. I'm sure
Well, not to a 7-year-old.
Yeah. So that's what your body does, little things when you're nervous. When I was a little kid and I would get nervous, I used to break out into red spots all over my face, like hives all over my face. And I hated going to gym class. So every time I went to gym class, I would just have dumb red spots on me. And I didn't really know my left from right. And the teacher would taunt me about this. So I was just this kid with spots. I looked like a leper. And she was always going, "It's left." Like that. And she put her hand up like that. And I would just get the ball hurled in my spotted face. I don't know how we ended up here, you guys. But
it sounds like school wasn't.
It was Wingate's fault, everybody. No, probably my teachers would say I was the problem, but I didn't care for gym class. Did you?
No. Well, we also had a very, really kind of sadistic. So in the school I went to in Roswell, that was like I never went to middle school because when I was in elementary school. I was in the certain elementary school, and then we got evicted and kicked out of our apartment, so I was not in school for a little bit, but then moved, finally found a place to live, and then was in the school system that was basically, there was no middle school. It was like middle school was attached to elementary school. So
that happened, I think, in some parts of our state.
I want to say from 5th or 6th grade on, but then so you ended elementary school, and then you went to high school, which had 8th grade. So it was 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, or 8th grade. So there was like an extra. The nickname was Jinkers, and it was an extra. You had one extra year of being the dumbest, weakest, newest, frightened kids, right? So you had 2 years of that, and then at this, it was called Crestwood High School. And at the Crestwood Colonels, another nice racist mascot, and
oh God,
like a plantation owner.
Oh my God!
And it was and so in the gym they had, I don't remember how many, but I want to say maybe 12, like big, like this kind of thing, the big padded color guide, right? And so they're all 12 different colors, white. Light blue, navy blue, red, all these different colors that ended with silver and gold. And based on how you performed physical feats, you would be assigned shorts, that colored short. Yes, I can see your mouth.
Oh my God.
So you would do these things like once every 2 months or whatever, and climb the rope and touch the thing at the top of the rope and do jumping jacks and do whatever the skills, go run down there, grab a cone, run back. I'm timing you. And then based on your performance, so it was such a big day. I eventually moved up to like the third color.
Yeah.
But the first couple things I had white, and then there were like the star stud, 7th, 8th, 9th graders, whatever, and they had the gold or the silver, and so I hated gym and then I had one teacher who was like football coach who also, was teaching, who'd always say, "Cross them up, cross."
Oh God.
And it didn't even make sense.
It doesn't.
But he would he would laugh, and then his, like the football players would laugh too. Like it was some sort of put down that didn't really affect me because it wasn't clever.
It didn't make sense, really. Yeah,
cross them up, cross.
Yeah, it's just kind of like
or don't cross them up.
If it makes you feel any better, it was once discovered. Everybody decided that I was somehow in the middle math class, and that they told me at school, like we took some test, and I got in the middle, and then at the end of the day. Everybody in my house was like, "Wait, this doesn't make sense. Rachel, the middle, she always gets the lowest. She's the lowest." And everybody was just up in arms. They're like, "This doesn't track," because I was particularly bad in math.
I'm taking this and I'm marching right back down to that school and getting this C changed to an F. You hang out right here. Don't worry about it, kiddo. I'm going to take...
Pretty much that's
no
what
kid
happened.
of mine is getting a
Everybody
fucking
was like,
C.
I don't see it. Rachel's not in the middle of anything. And then the school called and they were like, "Oops, it looks like we've made a grave mistake." And I was, in fact, supposed to have been at the lowest. They knew their kid.
And there
was a math tutor that molested all these kids, and he didn't molest me. And I'm pretty sure it's because I was so bad at math that I just infuriated him more, like at so much that he just wasn't aroused by me.
He couldn't get it up for you.
No.
You're so dumb.
I remember being like, "Come on, Rachel. We're not even at the hard part of the fucking
Listen,
word problem
I only
yet."
fuck children, but you are beyond.
No, I don't even remember him looking at my thigh. He'd had it with my shit. All right, you guys, I've rambled for enough. Thank you for having me.
All right, Rachel, Feinstein, whatever you want. She doesn't care.
I don't care.
Check her out, and thank you for coming down.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
That was a Headgum podcast.